So here's a quick little update of the progress at the farm. Let's see where to start. Started doing some bush hogging in this area. There's a lot of rocky and trees piled up over there, but I cleaned up this fence line some, try and get it ready for when I'm able to get goats in there to pull this fence line a little bit tighter and have it ready for the goats. The other day I took a project upon myself of pulling some vines off some of these trees. So as you can see on this big old sucker, you can see where I ripped the vines off. And here's the vines themselves. I mean, these things are almost like fucking trees. They're huge. And then I also got this tree devined as much as I could. You know, with these trees being so close to the house, I want to make sure they're as healthy as possible, and they provide a great amount of shade. Absolutely love that. But after doing my version of devining, I looked online and they didn't recommend pulling them down like I did, but cutting a couple feet off the roots and then busting the root off. So essentially leaving the existing vine about right here or a little lower, and then pulling the root out and killing the root, and I guess the vine will slowly die and prevent me from pulling any limbs or hurting the tree anymore. I've still got, you know, a bunch of junk laying around. These are several engines. Maybe one or two of them are decent. It could be taken apart and the block used or something, but gathering the engines up, I've got about 4 or 5 more that I need to get together and get covered. The utility poles that before Wayne went in for his first kidney surgery, the week before, we had to go get these off the side of the road. And until Wayne passed, he was fussing at me that these poles were laying on the ground and rotting, and I need them to get off the ground. So that's a future plan of mine. The little old Toyota 4-speed that I have traded for some welding work and waiting for someone to come pick it up. These old glass windows and everything, I'm thinking about using for a chicken coop or some kind of building that's, you know, not the prettiest thing, but I would like to put them to use since I have them. And, you know, some old lawnmower wheels, old fence, and a bunch of tin that I need to get pulled out of here and kind of get in a better storage condition, because I've got enough tin here to make a pretty decent sized chicken coop. Over here is an old boat trailer that I have used to store random pieces of metal, from street sign posts to T-posts to electric fence to car springs. My grandfather explained to me that these car springs are a hardened metal and would be perfect to put on the end of the auger tip to dig into the ground. And then look at that, just a bunch of more of metal and what a lot of people consider junk, and I would say a lot of it is junk, but there's still a decent amount of stuff in here that I can use. Like this little piece of stainless steel chute from Home Depot is $70. So if I put a wood fireplace inside, I can use that. This old Chevy is the donor truck for the Chevy ton truck that I have that I'm gonna restore. Big old fan that I like to get put up in a shop or something. That sucker looks like it would move some air. a little loader that goes onto one of the Alice's tractors right there with some folded up fence row in it. Some of the progress I have made is in this field that's to the lower side of the house. All this stuff right here was sitting in that field over there, and I wasn't able to bush hog and keep it clean, so I pulled all this stuff out of there, and this was the $2,500 driveway to nowhere that I got built, which hopefully at some point I will make use of. But old feeder, this is all rear end that my grandfather got someone to build a base for to train horses on. Transmission, big old water tank that I plan on putting next to one of the barns to have a gutter on the barn and gather rainwater to water with. A bunch of different implements and some weights over there, which the price of wheel weights and other type of tractor weights is insanely expensive these days, so I guess I'm lucky to have those. A little bog, a couple of buckets, a boom, some cultivators, a little fuel tank on skids over here, a bed frame that my dad got made custom for one of his ex-girlfriends that left him, which I completely understand her leaving him. Here's a little piece that goes on the back of the tractor where you got a little protection when bush hogging, where something flies up behind you, it'll hit that expanded metal instead of you. A couple watering troughs and a feeding trough. These are the, what the hell y'all doing over there? That was the goats, but these are the poles from the pile that I just showed you that we used to put the containers in place. So I got them out of the grass and stacked them up. A little hay ring, and a bunch of gates and whatnot that I plan on putting in use. You know, I got a lot of shit to put to use. And then also a bunch of scaffolding that's rusted all to hell. So, you know, I'll find a purpose for that. And then the Rhino batwing bush hog. Last time we used it, it worked. Probably needs some hydraulic hoses replaced on it and greased up and ready to go. Got a little hay wagon down here that I need to pull out of here. It's got 2 engines on it and some mule drawn equipment and aluminum rims and whatnot that my grandfather was collecting, that we'll see what I can put to use. So, but yeah, directly up here is where all that junk was, so I wasn't able to mow and keep that clean. So I got all that moved and was able to mow. These were a bunch of concrete forms that my grandfather got off jobs that were in good shape until we brought them from the other farm out of the barn and left them out in the open. So a lot of that's rotten, which is my fault because he told me multiple times that I should cover those up before they rot. But I was preoccupied with other stuff, and a couple wooden gates that we'll see if I can get them out of there and put them to use one day. Maybe. A little panel and another gate. Old Ford Jubilee tractor that I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with. I've got a couple people interested in it. You know, I'm more of a Alice Chalmler person, but a good running tractor ain't nothing bad to have. So this is where I fenced off the backyard of the house to let the goats clean up off of it. This is the property line right here, which I brought the fence to. These are like dog kennel panels. They're 10 feet long. Usually buy 4 of them, make a square for a dog kennel. Well, you know, like my grandfather had always been, someone throwing something away that could be used, he took. So we have multiple panels from dog kennels that came around the whole backyard, and we'll enter through here. The goats have been doing an amazing job of clearing this area out. You couldn't see through here about 5 or 6 days ago, and they've been eating it up. One of my friends let me borrow these panels that help complete the enclosure. So I'm keeping the goats off the house. The reason I ran this instead of just running off the house, the goats will climb all over this side and the house. I don't know what for, I guess looking for food up there. No food, but they would jump all over the house and everything, so I kept them off the house. But I've got some before pictures of the day I put them in here that I'll try to add to this video to show you the kind of progress that they've made in 5 to 6 days. I think today is the 5th day, it could be the 6th, but pretty much what they've been able to reach, they've been eating. And the great thing is I'm trying to get this fence row on the property line cleaned up some, and the goats will eat as much out of it as they can, and then I come back and pull out the dead vines. But right in here, you couldn't see through here at all, and they've done a spectacular job of cleaning this area up for me. Today is about the point where they have gotten everything they can reach to eat. So after this video, I'm gonna come in here and cut a lot of this stuff off at the bottom now that I can get to it a lot easier, and let it fall, and then the goats will eat the tops out of it then, and then I'll just be left with some sticks to burn. Oh yeah, found this over here. It's an old little water heater tank, and from what my grandfather has taught me, you cut that thing in half and that's a great feeding trough. So I plan on keeping that and making a little trough out of that to feed with. Can't go wrong with a good trough. So over here is this used to be pretty overgrown also. Did what I doing right over here. Let the goats in, let them eat as much as they can, and then cut down the trees and they eat some more. And I've been able to get that fence row pretty cleaned out. There's holes in it and everything. Eventually I will be replacing that perimeter fence row, but for the time being, I'll make it work. Say hey to the camera. Gabe. This is the one that I feel like has almost kind of a mullet look. Hey, look at me, buddy. Psst. Psst. Not gonna look at me? There you go. What do you think of the GoPro? You're not too happy with me? All right. So that was the fencing around the backyard of the house. This is the old smokehouse barn that was here when my grandfather was raised. Supposedly there's a bunch of salt in there for preserving meat and whatever. Several pounds of salt in there. So we looped around behind the house. This is, I guess, considered the front of the house, even though I consider it the side. It's, with that addition on it, kind of changed the look of the house. But that's the old TL80 New Holland. Not old, I mean, it's I think about 2001. Pretty good tractor. Wayne didn't like it because it was too heavy. And this is a Chevy ton truck that I will be repairing with the blue donor truck and get this running. Wayne bought this truck, I think it was 2 years old, and it had originally was used to carry a lion from circus to circus. So Wayne bought it with no bed on it and then put a fifth wheel on it. Got a fifth wheel trailer to haul bathtubs for a little bit. This is some of the good looking hay I got delivered yesterday. I'm waiting for a piece to come in on the tractor, the tie rod, before I go put it in its final resting place. But $40 a bale with the prices of gas these days is, I'm guessing, a pretty decent price, because I've heard some people paying $70 at the moment for a 5x5 round bale. So that's a tractor I use to unload all the hay off the trailer and bring it up here. Got an old school Sidewinder bush hog on it. I love that tire being the clutch of it. So if you do hit something and jar the blades instead of breaking a gearbox, that tire just slips. This is that triple axle fifth wheel trailer that will be restored and will be used with the yellow ton truck up there, and I will use that to take my tractors to antique tractor shows. Hell, maybe I'll even pull one. I still gotta enter my little D10 tractor into the Christmas parade. Wayne was on my ass about that for a while, and I just never got around to it. So mark my words, Justin Hamlet will be in the Lebanon Christmas parade driving a tractor. So a little lean-to that Wayne built that has got all kinds of stuff in it. To Amanda and most other people, this looks like trash, and a lot of it is, but I mean, these are 2 good water heaters that we pulled out of the house before we sold the other farm. So when I have a rental place that needs a new water heater, bam, there you go. Save me several $100s. I recently bush hogged this field up there, and then did a lot of cleaning up around the chicken coop. Got these 2 fellers and 1 gal hanging out here. They were causing some issues in the chicken coop, and I had to separate them. I actually thought nature would have gotten them by now, but they've been hanging out, living out in the world by themselves and surviving. I'm guessing that has to do with the donkeys being in such close perimeter. So here's the chicken coop, which ultimately I plan on tearing down and moving and rebuilding. But hell, this thing's been here for 30-40 years and it's still holding up, so it does a job right now. So come in here, we got the 3 ducks that we got up at the Amish auction that don't care to have much to do with me. I got this little pan out for them, keep it filled up with water, change the water about every other day. They love cleaning themselves in it. And then in here, yesterday I moved the 20 chicks that I hatched earlier this year out of the little spot back there. So I think I lost you for a second. For some reason the camera died or stopped recording. So I just moved all the 20 chicks out of this area and put the 3 ducklings in here to give them a little separate area. Got them water, a little pan with water in it so they can swim around, and then the duckling gooseling feed. That's why I have to separate them so they can get their needed nutrients and not all the other chickens eat it, because they will. So here's my little egg. Oh, a freshly laid egg. She was laying that just a moment ago, so I'll take that with me. But that's the chicken coop. I'm about to cut some trees down where the goats are, and I'll show you the progress of that in just a moment. So I just got done chainsawing in the backyard, a little out of breath, got a dull blade on a chainsaw, but as you can see, all the tops of these the goats couldn't reach. I cut them down where they're able to get to them now. They'll eat all that green up, process it, and create me some natural fertilizer in the backyard. I went down the fence row a little bit and cut some of these trees back off here. That's the ultimate goal, was to get this fence row and backyard cleaned up. So I'd say 2 or 3 days they'll have all this stuff that I cut down eaten, and then I'll be able to get back in there another time, and about mid next week with the chainsaw, and I'll cut some of the bigger stuff, like straight ahead where that tree with all the vines that's in the fence row. I need to cut that and let it fall down on this side, and same thing right there. But we're making progress, that's for sure. I mean, within a week's time, it's a hell of a difference. So, whew, man. Yeah, got all this knocked down, and goats are already going to work. Woohoo, holla holla.